This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions, so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins, just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag, the one you stole from your ex, or your overpriced half a studio apartment, or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar, triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a vitamin water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. Today's guest, Enzo Garza. She is an entrepreneur, and she's going to talk to the audience about how to scale your businesses, how to automate your business for the doctor, lawyer, dentist that are interested in saving time and money, making their processes more efficient. Enzo is the person to talk to today. So welcome, Enzo.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. And briefly chronicle your journey and how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Accounting Pro, started in 2010 just by myself, and I've scaled to about 20 people on my team. And it's been a fun journey because I've gotten to meet lots of different entrepreneurs who are at different stages in their journey, and helping them to automate and get all their processes in order is literally my favorite thing. So I've learned a lot along the way about what to do and what not to do, and I'm happy to share all my wisdom that I've gathered.
Yeah, really fascinating. And so I love using these podcasts to help listeners answer their questions. So what people that would be searching for you, what are they looking for? What are they trying to find solutions to their problems? Or what are they frustrated, fed up with, trying to accomplish and achieve?
Yeah, so a lot of times people will start a business thinking, I'm really great at doing this thing. And then they realize that there's a lot more to running a business than just actually producing the work. So maybe they're a great dentist or a great doctor or lawyer, but there's so many other things that go into running that business, and they end up feeling really overwhelmed, and almost they have many jobs instead of just one job. And it's a job that it ends up feeling like a prison at times. And then they realize that a way out of that is either to quit or to find a way to create processes and like delegate that work to other people. And so they are sometimes coming to me knowing that they've done all this work on their own. They don't want to continue doing the accounting work or any of the finance work, and recognize that's not their strong suit, and then search for somebody like me. And then when we actually start to dig in, I ask questions. How do you manage this process or that process? How do you invoice? How do you pay bills? And sometimes I get really simple answers. I just send an invoice out. But when I start to dig in, I realize there's all these other things that you have to do and all these decision points that happen along the way, that they realize that a very simple process, or what they thought was a simple process, is actually quite complicated. And that's why they've been working until midnight trying to get all their bills taken care of and invoices sent out and all that. And they recognize they need to hand that off.
Yeah. You're an accountant. And again, a lot of the audience are just professionals, six figures, engineers. How is AI changing accounting right now? Are accountants going to be out of a job, or are all of us going to be out of a job?
Oh, I hope not. I hope that the work actually is going to change. But so I'm actually doing a bit of traveling right now. So Xero is the accounting platform I use. It's Xero. And they are doing something called a Xero Roadshow that leads up to their big conference at the end of the year. So I've been traveling the last few weeks, and this weekend I'll also be doing it the next couple. But I'm actually sitting and having a conversation. I'm on stage, but having a conversation about what is going to happen next. And I think that the way that we work, or the value that we bring, I think is going to change. What we're being paid for is going to change. The day-to-day sort of data entry, that's all stuff that if you can document the process, if you know, you entered this information in this field on this day in this way, that is something that we can very easily automate. But it's about being able to help our clients make sense of their data, being able to look forward and actually build a better future rather than just looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, interesting. So moving forwards, because you help business owners automate and scale and just save time and money, what's the first automation every growing business should implement?
So I'd actually back it up and say you shouldn't immediately start automating right away. That is definitely something that we need to do, but it's first understanding What are things in your business that are really happening all the time? So are repeatable. You have the different steps in that process, and it's very time consuming, which means it's also really costly. So maybe something that somebody on your team is doing every single day, and it takes them 20 minutes a day. And it's something that if you took that off of their plate, then it would free them up to do higher level work. So I think it's understanding the different tasks and processes in the business first and identifying something that has a really high ROI. And that can be different from business to business. Maybe it's something like creating a bill and paying it, or maybe it's creating an invoice. Everybody's going to bill and handle those things slightly differently based on their industry. But it's really looking at your business holistically and saying, okay, this is something that if I took it off my plate or somebody else's plate, it would be a game changer. But I think that's going to be different for many different business owners.
Interesting. I was having a conversation with my colleague over lunch the other day, and because we're talking about leadership, and one thing he strives is to remove himself as the bottleneck. And you talk about what's the one workflow bottleneck in almost every small business you work with, and how do you get rid of it?
So that I think is really going to be around the accounting and the day-to-day, like getting the work done to get to the final result, which is we all want to know what's happened and what's going to happen in the future. Don't be the person who owns all of that process or owns that data or information. If you can give access to like your email system or any of the places that where things land, give that to your assistant or give that access to somebody like you're an accountant. They can actually gather everything, enter it into your accounting system. You don't have to be the person who does everything. And I think rather than being the accountant for every transaction, maybe being the accountant or the person who delivers information as an exception. So maybe 9 times out of 10, the person who's assisting you knows how to do the work. That one time, then they can go to you and ask a question, but don't be the person who's handling all 10 of those things that go into your accounting.
Interesting. Walk us through like an example or a process where you take a chaotic business, you create systems that actually work, or how you map a broken business process to fix it.
Yeah, so we actually are working with a client right now, and they have previously had a ton of paper that they manage, and it's all invoices and POs, and they have a lot of it. So on average, they have about 1,200 purchase orders that they manage every single month. And from those purchase orders, it can be up to 3 invoices for those purchase orders because they buy things in bulk for many different locations of their business. So that's about 3,000 bills that they have to pay at the end of each month. And what they do is they make the order. Once the order comes in, they have an item receipt. They staple that together, and then they just check off what's actually been received. And then once a bill comes, they then staple each bill to that whole stack of paper. And then they have to go and get physical signatures for approvals for payments and things like that. So we were actually able to understand that process and then use the API between their purchasing software and their bill pay software to not only take the initial purchase order, the item receipt, and the bill and do an automatic 3-way match. So that way, all they have to do is say, yes, we approve of everything because it all matches our expectation. And yes, I want to pay this bill. And then the check or the ACH goes out automatically. There's nobody physically sending out a check or anything like that. And so that's actually, we did the math. And by implementing that automation, it can replace the work of, I think, 4 full-time employees in the AP department. Now, I don't want them to go away. I want them to have other work to do. So now they're actually freed up to work on things like vendor relationships and maybe work on pricing agreements and have discounted pricing, things like that, or like discounted payment agreements. But if all they're doing is stapling paper and walking it around to get physical signatures, they're never going to have time to do any of that extra stuff. So that's one way that we were able to make something that was really complex actually work using APIs, which connect the dots between the data.
Interesting. And what do you see accounting and business operations heading in the next 5 years? Are we all going to just be on software, or we're going to, when the robots come, we're going to be having humanoids? Where do you see it heading?
I don't know if it's going to be that futuristic, but I think that the people who are going to do really well are going to be like me, where they are really curious about what's going on and how do you run your business day to day and be able to create automated processes that are either fully automated where there's no human in the loop or are partially automated with a human in the loop. And I think that our job then becomes something of a fortune teller. So what do you want your business? What does business success look like for you? And how do we actually tell that in the future? How do we make that happen? And I think that's going to be different. Some people want more time, some people want more money, some people want both. But being able to back into how do we get there, and then helping our clients design that future and report against how closely they are to that goal. So really it's going to be about goal setting and management and helping to deliver results, not just looking at what did you do, but where do you want to go? And I do think that there are going to be the lower level work, I think, is going to be going away, but that means that everybody gets to advance or level up as a professional. And I think it's that lower level work that we don't really enjoy doing anyway, like going in and typing things in just because we have to, not because we want to. I think we actually want to have relationships with our clients and want to lead them. And I think that's where we're headed, is that leadership and partnership, that being more of what we focus on in the future.
Really fascinating. The other thing is, again, I was talking with my colleagues and they were saying, like, because he's in real estate, but he doesn't view his business in real estate. He views himself as a tech and an AI company. And he told me this fascinating quote. He was like, if you, any industry like healthcare, legal, law, whatever, if you are not a tech or AI company, you're going to be out of business. For those like listening and they're like, oh, this AI thing, it's too overwhelming. I can't get it. I'm so busy. And they just basically tune it out. Where does that place? Because you went from traditional accounting to becoming obsessed with technology. What's going to happen to them?
I like that you called me obsessed with technology. That's actually true. I think that I'm just deeply curious on how to work more effectively, efficiently. And I tend to agree with that thought that if you're not using AI, that it's going to be a downfall in the future. And I actually have given all my team access to ChatGPT's team plan. And I encourage them to use it because, number one, we're not using our data or our clients' data to train the model. So you can actually get your privacy set up correctly. And then I'm also encouraging them and we're actually requiring them to share their use cases. So what did you actually use ChatGPT for in the past week? And it's not because I'm trying to set some like difficult assignment up for them. I think that one of the ways that we grow is by understanding what are other people doing. And so a good thing could just be to start experimenting and sharing your use cases. I do that a lot on LinkedIn, but there are some groups that are specifically here to train people in our industry. So I'm part of AI CFO Finance Club, and that is accountants and CFOs who go through training that's already like in their training program. And also people who are just joining the community to share what they're doing. I think it's being open about how you're using it, finding resources that are specific to your industry, and just being okay with not getting it right every single time. Because I think that if you're going to the gym every day, you're not going to expect to have like really big muscles at the end of the week. But if you do it for a year, if you work out for a year, you're going to be in a much better place. You're going to be much more like in shape or buff. Same thing with exercising that AI muscle, being able to slowly build on it. You'll find something new that will interest you. And then you'll end up going down a rabbit hole and realizing, oh, okay, now I actually can make this useful for me. But if you're avoiding it completely, I don't think that's the way to go. I think that's going to be something that will hold you back in the future.
Yeah. And then the other concept is, especially in today's where anybody can work from anywhere in the world, we have a lot of digital nomads. How should location strategy drive your tech stack? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a good question. So again, it really depends on the industry. And I'll give you an example of what we do. So we often will work from home usually, but sometimes we work from the road. So like I said, I'm going to be traveling with Xero the next couple of weeks. And a lot of times if we have access to our client sensitive banking information, things like that. And sometimes banks will not allow us to log in if it looks like we're logged in from a different location. So I would say make sure that you have things like a VPN set up in place. We use Tailscale and our own server in order to have a static IP address. So that way we can log in and it appears like we're logging in from the same place every single time because the IP address doesn't move. But at the same time, we're also eliminating things like man-in-the-middle attacks. So we're not going to have our data breached or have anybody be able to intercept our traffic. So it's thinking about how do you stay safe in places like coffee shops and airports and places where there might be some vulnerability. But beyond that, making sure that wherever you're going has a good internet connection and, you have a nice place to work, like finding a co-working space ahead of time is a really good idea. So that way you're not stuck wondering, how am I going to work today because I didn't plan ahead. So it's really thinking about looking at the map, figuring that sort of stuff out, and then getting a reservation because some of those require that you get reservations as well.
Yeah, it's Yeah, really interesting. So if people listening to this podcast, they were interested in working with you, talk about how they can build business systems that grow from 10 to 100 employees without breaking.
So that is really understanding your business and optimizing your processes and workflows. If you're the only person handling one process and you're not handing things off, then you're going to limit yourself to just you, essentially. So you need to be able to understand fully, what do you do, how do you do it, and be able to explain that to somebody else on your team. Being able to do that doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect every single time. And so recognizing like you're going to improve that over time. But the way that I typically start when I'm working with a client is I just ask open-ended questions. And then I will start with a flow chart. So what is the beginning part of a process? How does something kick off? What is a trigger for something to kick off? And then start to figure out what's the next step? What's the next step? Who does it? What software are you using to do that if it is a software tool? And then is there a decision point, like where you can go left or right? Is it going to be this way or that way down the journey? And then that would be the really high level stepping back. If I'm doing a 10,000 foot view, that's what we're doing step by step. And then we also will talk about our process and do the work on a screen. And I have two tools that I normally will turn on. One is Scribe, and Scribe takes a screenshot of all the places that you click and actually will transcribe the name of the button, and we'll have a highlight where you're doing the work. And then we also use Loom. And then we take those looms and we run the transcript through something like Claude and have it explain the process, since we're also explaining it on that video, because people are going to want to learn in a few different ways. One is by looking and actually watching what you're doing. One is being able to review what you've written and be able to quickly find something on the page. Like, what did they say when they're on this screen, and being able to read it and look at it. And then putting it as something like Notion is really nice. I personally love Notion, because if you sign up for a plan that has AI, which I think all the plans are going to have that moving forward, then if somebody gets stuck, all they have to do is use a little chatbot on the right-hand side of the screen and say, how do I do this? And now you don't have to be the person who's constantly training people, because the training is just happening behind the scenes. They're able to access that information. And then if you also appoint whoever's in charge of that process to update the process over time, then you not only have a playbook for how things work, but it's a living playbook that grows with the business. It's not static. And so you're empowering people to take ownership over that. And so instead of becoming the doer, now you're the leader. Now you're the person who's in charge. And you just do that with all the things that you want to let go. You just slowly add to your like treasure trove of I don't know, data or processes, until eventually you just have something where the business can run on its own. And I'll tell you, if you are looking to sell your business, if you have every single thing documented where somebody can just buy your turnkey business, you'll get a much higher multiple than if you are the person who is the holder of all the knowledge, like everything lives within you. You'll be able to sell at a much higher rate than if you're that type of business. And like on the other, if you think about it, and I won't be so morbid, but let's say that you get hurt, and you can't actually work, or you actually want to take a vacation. The business doesn't stop whenever you're not at the office. The business now is its own sort of entity that operates without having to have you don't have to have your hands in every single thing, every single part of the day. It's really, that's where you really start to see the magic happening.
And if people wanted to find out more about what you do in your business and how you help clients, how can they connect with you and contact you and reach you?
Sure. So people can find me on LinkedIn. So it's Enzo-Garza. And then I'm at Accounting Pros. So accounting, PROSE, like you're writing poetry. We're helping our businesses tell beautiful stories about their business, like helping them create that story. We've got lots of information on our site, but I'd love to talk to whoever has questions. So reach out.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, and keep up the great work.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.